And so someone is saying, hey, do you have time to do this at 2:30? Now, what they don't know is at 2:30, that is my scheduled time to sit, to be quiet. All they know is that there's a meeting on my calendar at 2:30. What that really did for me is it forced me to honor myself.
Hey there, and welcome to Work is Third, the podcast that is all about indulging in rest, setting boundaries, finding joy, and putting yourself first. I'm Dawn Hunter, your host, and I am so excited you're here. Today, I'm joined by Dr. Brittany Peters, behavioral health expert, licensed clinician, and educator, for a conversation that I think so many of us need to hear. We talk about what it really means to stop overworking, to honor our calendars, and to give the same energy to our mind and body that we so often give to our jobs. If you want to skip around, I've added section markers in addition to the regular chapter markers. But honestly, you are going to want to stick around for the whole thing. Let's dive in. Hello, Brittany, and welcome to Work is Third.
Thank you for having me.
I'm really glad that you are here and that you are here in person for this conversation. I'm grateful for that.
Literally in real time, I knew that I needed to come in person. Technical difficulties seem to follow me, but the other thing is you have such great energy online, and so I wanted to be in space with you.
I appreciate that very deeply. And we can talk about this because I met you in a way that I also just really appreciated your energy and was like, I want to work with her more.
I appreciate that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But before we get into any of that, what I like to do is start out by asking guests to share a word to describe how you're doing today.
How am I doing today? I feel open today.
Okay.
And that's very important to me. I know you didn't ask me to share why, but
Well, I would ask you to share why if you didn't go into it. So go ahead and go with it.
My calendar is clearing up because I am reaching a space where I'm able to kind of move some things around to prioritize self. And so tomorrow's that day that this thing is done. And so it creates openness. And I am so excited for that space on my calendar and just like more space for me.
You are speaking magical words to me. I love being able to create space on my calendar.
Yeah.
I feel like it's always a gift. And I always think of it as how can I then use this gift of time to do something that is nurturing or supportive for myself?
Absolutely. Yeah. I'm like, I can just lay on the sofa and stare at the ceiling and be okay in that space.
Is that what you're going to do?
Sometimes.
Okay. So this is a longer term, something is freed up and you have a lot more time for yourself.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
What are some of the other things that you're considering doing besides laying on the sofa and staring at the ceiling? Which I think I love stillness. So that's a great suggestion.
Well, of course, that's its simplest form, right? But sometimes I will literally be able to sit on the sofa and stare at the ceiling. I think what really comes with that is the permission to do that because we spend a lot of time in this, like trying to unlearn productivity and this idea that I should be doing something and should gives us feelings of guilt, right? And we don't want to exist in that space, right? That's not fun. So I, with intention, really do plan to allow myself to just lay on the couch and stare at the ceiling. But other things are just kind of reorganizing my life, moving some things in different spaces. I do 5 a.m. workouts and yes, your face, right? I am part of the 5 a.m. workout crew. I'm not a morning person though. And so
Oh,
I am very much looking forward to moving that into a later time in my life because
okay.
it is a struggle bus. Like I am in there and I've always known I am not a morning person. And so I do it, but I can't wait to be like, you know what? I'll sign up for the 7 a.m. class or I'll go at 8 because I still want to go. I
Yeah.
enjoy working out. I don't enjoy it at 5 a.m.
I have to admit that when you said later, I was thinking 1 o'clock, 2 o'clock.
Oh, no, those are my productive hours now.
Okay.
I need I am, when we think about like kids and they can sometimes describe children as like slow to warm up. They need to dip their foot in the pool first, I am absolutely I need a couple hours first. But once 11 hits, I am great.
Okay, we're the same on that. I need time to wake up in the morning,
Yeah.
and I actually have this, poster on my wall in my office that says, "Rise and take your time,"
Yes. I
because
wanna s
I don't wanna rise and grind. I wanna rise and drink my coffee and journal.
Yeah, I watch my dog. I have a miniature schnauzer, and the first thing he does when he gets up in the morning is he stretches.
Mm,
He stretches, and I'm watching him stretch every morning as I'm, running around doing stuff, and I'm like, "I wanna stretch in the morning." And he's like, "I
yeah.
mean, you can." He stretches, he rolls, he makes sure his feet are good, he licks his paws, he really goes into self-care first thing in the morning, and, yeah, I need to come back as a dog or something, I don't
I'm
know.
like, "This is very eye-opening for me," because I also have a dog, and he also does the same things. He stretches his back out,
Mhm,
he grooms himself.
mhm,
He's like, "I'm gonna go to the restroom, I'm gonna come back and lay down and groom myself some more."
mhm,
I never thought of it in the sense of the way that, animals and dogs in particular take care of themselves when they wake up in the morning.
mhm. Stretch, not go play fetch. Stretch. And we need that, right? We know that as we age, our bodies are tight. We're carrying tension in our shoulders. We need to stretch more. I know I need to stretch more.
I need to stretch more. In fact, I had a goal yesterday to spend at least 5 minutes stretching, and my intent was to do, like, chair yoga or chair stretching,
Oh,
which I love.
okay.
I did none of it. 5 minutes, couldn't find 5 minutes in the day yesterday.
I cheat sometimes. I'm in bed and I remember I need to stretch. So I'm like, let me grab my leg and let me do this and let me because it's kind of stretching, but it's not the intentional stretching that we really need.
Yeah, I do that too, and I like to do lying down stretches
Mhm.
and then roll my knees in because my back is often sore,
Mhm.
challenges of getting older. But you really do need that intentional, dedicated time to
Mhm.
make sure. I heard it this way recently. You work out because you wanna look good, a lot of people do, or you wanna be fit or whatever, but really you're working out so that when you're 80, you can still move.
Yes. Mhm.
Yeah.
Mhm. Because mobility is real, right?
Yeah,
And,
yeah,
so I always, I've seen that post too, and I think it's a good perspective because a lot of times people are being told by their doctors, "You need to move more."
right. Yeah, I try to take that to heart. Not at 5 AM though.
Well, I work out for my mental health and I work out because usually I have some crazy goal that I need to train for. So the 5 a.m. is again necessary. And I'm not willing to give up those goals, but I'm willing to move the workout.
I wanna come back to the goal, but before we do, one of the things you said was, I wanna go back to this idea of laying on the couch with your eyes closed, because I just started a newsletter called The
Mhm.
Joyful Rebellion, if anyone listening would like to subscribe. And every other week, you get the 5-minute rebellion, and it's a 5-minute challenge that really pushes back against productivity culture. This week's 5-minute rebellion is be still and close your eyes for 5 minutes. I think it's rebellious because, like you were saying, in productivity culture, we're told we need to be doing, doing, doing all the
Mhm.
time.
Mhm.
And in today's, technological environment, we are constantly surrounded by sound and visuals. So can you just take that away and just exist for
Mhm.
5 minutes?
Mhm. Just sit still in space.
Yeah,
And I think it allows us to feel our bodies too, right? So it gives us space to reconnect with ourselves. Because oftentimes when we stop and we slow down and our body's not in motion, that's when we feel the tension in our back, right? That's when we notice, wait a minute, I really haven't eaten. Or wait a minute, my foot's throbbing. Or, this feels good. I need more of this, right?
yeah.
So I think it's a very empowering thing that you've included in your newsletter.
I'm hoping people take it, right? Do take the challenge and try it out. It's a challenge for me too, though,
It
by
is
the
a
way.
challenge. It's a challenge because we're unlearning that, no, this space is you're actually doing something, right? Sitting still, laying on the sofa has gotten just like this bad rep, right? You are actually doing something though. If someone calls you and says, "What are you doing?" We have a tendency to say, "Oh, nothing." However, we are doing something. We are resting. We are reconnecting with ourselves. We are centering ourselves. And that's special. That's important. That is a productive moment. It gets us ready to do the things that we need to do. And sometimes we go, wait a minute, whatever I was planning to do after this, I don't need to do that.
I love that reframe. I'm going to try this. The next time somebody says, "What are you doing?" and I think I'm doing nothing, I'm going to instead say, "I'm sitting on the couch," or "I'm just
Mhm.
laying in bed."
Mhm.
I bet we don't do it though because of that judgment
The ju
piece.
because the response is gonna be, "Oh, you're not doing anything."
Mhm.
And
Yeah.
then you have to help them, like, "No, no, this is intentional setting."
This actually puts the whole idea of, like, if you don't wanna go out and you're like, "I have to rearrange my sock drawer," into perspective.
Mhm, yep.
Like
However, even that, right, is like rearranging my sock drawer is actually I gotta get the old stuff out.
right.
Now, if I'm rearranging it every week, there may be a problem.
May not really be
Right?
what needs to be done.
Yes, yeah. Yeah, at that point, we should probably just say, "Hey, how else can I support you?"
Yeah.
And
Good
in the
point.
sock drawer.
The sock drawer. Yes, yeah.
Yeah, I notice you don't wear socks.
So what is really going on?
Yeah, so what's really happening? Yeah. Mhm.
Okay, so let's then go back to the goals that you have.
Yeah.
So you said they're wild goals or lofty. What is something that you have worked toward recently?
Well, personally, I love outdoors. So most people don't think I am outdoors type. I like outside, but not the same outside that's like I want to be outside hanging. I like hiking. And
Yeah,
so I am preparing for a 16-mile hike next week. And I'm really excited about it. I'm doing half dome. So for those of you that are hikers, I got a permit. You have to win the lottery to get there. And so it's in Yosemite. So we're going to California. Super exciting. And I am just, I believe that I'm going to be able to make it. But I'm like asking old Betsy here, that's my body. Like, listen. We can do this.
we're going to make it through.
We're gonna make it through. Yeah.
I love to hike too. And I'm the kind of person, I was actually just talking about this with someone recently about training. And I'm the kind of person that I will go on a hike that will end up being 7 or 8 miles and I won't even think about it. I'll just be like, I'm
Mhm.
going for a walk. And then, of course, I'm really sore the next day or whatever.
That's the part.
Yeah.
That is the part. It's like you're walking, you're looking at stuff, and it feels great, and you're like, "Oh, this is look at what is just untouched by humans, right? Just
Yeah.
natural beauty, the air, everything." And then the next day, my feet are like, "Hey, we're gonna need to sit."
Right. You remind me, I did a half marathon many years ago. And I actually did train for that, and I still my feet told me I needed to sit the day after. They were like, "We're not moving anywhere."
Yeah, a half marathon is like I don't have that goal. However, that's impressive. And I'm glad you trained for it too, because your body just needs to get used to that kind of motion. Is really what you're training for. And you have the momentum. And I think most people, when they hear stuff like that, they're thinking, "I'm not going to be able to get through it." But it's really, I know you probably notice, it's more of the mental battle. It
Yeah.
is not a like, can you physically now, some people, if you don't drink enough water, things like that, but really you're just getting used to your body going, oh, you're going to use me. We're going on a long car drive. We're really going to do this. But it's more mental. Like after a while, you're just really
Yeah.
talking to yourself and listening to music or books or podcasts
Or a podcast.
or work is third.
Work is third specifically. You remind me though when I was doing the half marathon. So I'm a slow distance runner. I was a
Mhm.
sprinter in high school. So I do like a 3 hour half marathon, which is, I don't even know, 10, 11 minute a mile, 12 minutes a mile, something
Okay.
not really for a lot of people is a jog, I guess.
It's actually pretty good. 11, 12-minute mile is good.
It's good. And Though I was thinking the challenge was 3 straight hours of moving your body in the same way.
Mhm.
And in some ways, I'm like, maybe I wish I ran this faster so that I had to spend less time trying to figure out what to think about or listen to.
It's so funny because I've done that thought process, so preparing for the hike, I like to run as well. Not half marathons. I did the 400 in high school, I did the 800, we left it at that.
Okay.
But I'll sometimes tell myself, "Okay, we're training, I need to walk because I need to walk 16 miles." But in mile 3, I'm like, "If I run this, I can be done with this mile in 8 to 10 minutes, maybe 12 minutes, depending on how I feel." And then I realized there's that productivity voice again. There's the, I'm
Mm.
trying to do it faster. I'm trying to get it done
Yeah.
instead of just go into this slow space. And really what made me think about it was as in my professional life, when I'm working with people who are aging, a lot of times it's balancing, I'm aging, so I need to walk, not run. And I don't want to fight that battle the older I get. I'd rather accept it now that walking is actually exercise and it's okay to slow down. Like just
Yeah.
because I can actually run the mile and be done quicker, but I also can walk it and it's still just as effective.
It is. I think about that a lot when I train. So I'm trying to weight lift more as I get older,
Yeah.
which is a thing that we need to do as women, especially.
Yeah.
And I have these workouts, and I'm like, I got to do the workout how it was given to me.
Mhm.
And then I think, no, I don't. If I lift any kind of weights, it's lifting weights.
Yeah.
And I don't have to do 5 sets of 25 or whatever it is, right?
Mhm.
I could do 1 set or I could do it really slow. I could take an hour to do it instead of 30 minutes. It's just, you have to do it in the way that works for you.
Yeah. I
And
agree.
and with workouts, I think we get a lot of pressure to do it in a specific way. Like
Mhm.
you're only doing it well if you meet certain markers.
Mhm.
And the only marker that matters is your own.
And see how like powerful that is to just be able to go, I am doing and I'm doing in my own way. And this is sufficient. And more than likely it's more than enough. More than enough.
Yeah.
But we're always it's this like our K through 12 that like you need to learn to hop, skip, and jump. And you need to do it in this order and in this way. And we adopt that thought process for ourselves. That, like you said, it's like you looked at it and you're like, I actually don't have to do, I'll do the ones I like, or I don't have to do 5 sets.
Yeah.
What's good is that I'm just moving a weight.
What I've started doing is like I'm not doing Bulgarian split squats.
Hate those. Who made those?
Whose idea was that?
Whose idea? Who said, "You know what we should do? A Bulgarian split
Split squat
with weights."
with
Like,
weights and maybe a Bosu ball.
I skip it every chance I get. I do not like Bulgarian squats.
I don't either. And I was really trying to do it because I was like, okay, I'm going to do this workout. And then I thought, no, first of all, it hurts my knees.
Hmm.
And then I thought, I don't enjoy this at all, which makes me not want to work out.
Mhm.
So why am I doing this?
Why am I doing it? And they'll tell you because, like, your legs and this, and you're like, "I think I like my legs. I think we're good.
Yeah.
I don't need that."
th-
I always think whenever you're working out with people who are, like, having you do some crazy move, I think to myself, like, what part of life is this gonna come up? Is there gonna be a fire and I'm gonna need to Bulgarian split squat to grab something and get out? Like, what why did this become the movement?
I want to see somebody doing a Bulgarian split squat in real life, but like just ordinary, like you're washing dishes or something. Do your squat to put away a
Put your
bowl.
foot like, what where is that functional? It's not it's I don't know that it's functional.
I think that's a good lesson, though. One of the things that you made me think of, I'm really excited for your trip for you. I can't wait to hear about it.
Excited too.
Yeah, is so I got to hear Wasfia Nazreen speak recently, and she is the first Bangladeshi woman who climbed the summits.
Ooh.
And her story is really fascinating. But to me, the thing that was most fascinating was how you have to train differently for each summit because the terrain and the climate is so different. And I never thought of that before. I mean, it makes sense when you think about it, right? But
Mm.
when you're training to do that, it's not just, oh, you're a mountain climber and then you can just go climb mountains.
Mhm.
You have things that you have to do specifically to get through that particular summit's challenges.
Yeah.
And it was just really eye-opening to me to think about having to adjust that training, having to take
Yeah.
time, having to attempt it. I think she said she attempted Everest 3 times before she summited.
Mm.
And it was really just I don't know, I just really appreciated that story and that understanding of the training that went into it.
Mhm. I will have to look into, her because I'm not familiar with her story, but as I listen to you share it, I am reflecting on how powerful it is that she said, "Hey, I did 3 times before I actually," right? And how that in and of itself, the preparation, the getting there, the feeling it, the, going part way, all of that is important in your journey of not giving up, but the preparation alone, because it's hard. Not a lot of people do efforts.
No, and even I think making it to base camp is an
Mhm.
accomplishment, right?
Yeah.
Most people are never going to do that.
I will never do that
I will
'cause
never do that.
I don't like cold hiking. However, if I had that spirit in me, go for it.
Yeah.
Go for it.
It's funny because I wanted to and I still sort of kind of want to hit the highest point in each state. But I said that, and then I realized, of course, one of the 7 summits is the highest point in Alaska.
Oh,
And I was like, "Oh, yeah, that's not happening."
how do we come up with that goal?
Well, I summited, I use that term loosely because it's 13,000 feet, but the highest point in New Mexico, my home state,
Okay.
which is Wheeler Peak.
Okay.
And I attempted it in May. This is actually a funny story. I attempted it in May, not realizing that May is actually still quite cold if you're a mountain.
Yes.
And there was feet, feet, 4 feet, 5 feet of snow still. At one point, it was
Really?
very sunny toward the bottom, and then
Mm,
the higher we got, the worse the conditions got. There was so
mm,
much snow, and then it started snowing, and then we were like, "Okay, we need to turn around," and we thought we had gotten far, and turns out, no, we probably got about a mile and a half in.
wow.
And we were
No.
we were gone for 4 hours, 5 hours, I don't remember, it was something absurd. So, we went back in September,
Okay.
beautiful, went all the
Mm,
way to the peak, gorgeous weather,
mhm,
beauti lesson learned. But it was fun to have done it. I mean, we read a book to prepare because once you're above, what do they call it? The tree line or whatever,
mhm,
you're exposed, and so you wanna be cautious of storms that might come in and
mhm.
how you can, protect yourself and things like that. But it was such a wonderful experience, but it was so funny the first time going in so much snow, and we were like, "We're not making it." And then to realize when we went back how far we actually did not go.
That's hilarious because 'cause I'm like, "Wait, 4 hours in? Like, that had to be quite a trek." Like, you guys were really pushing it, and it's crazy because if you don't hike, you don't realize, like, there's so much work that goes into it. Like, it's not just walking. It's like, it could be you're scrambling rocks. It could be you're, like, making your own path or someone has made it for you because they just passed through, and there's just so much. It's not as, like, easy as just getting out there, and like you said, then you have to realize that the weather changes and how you breathe changes and, like,
Right.
all of that, but I love that you went back. I love that you didn't go, "Oh, well," you just said, "It has to happen in a different month."
Yeah.
Not that it's not happening. You learned so much on that first one that you're like, "Oh, I'm gonna be really prepared."
This time, I know what to do.
Yeah, it's such an interesting thing, but, once you get up there and you can see just all the beautiful sights, you realize this is worth it.
It is worth it.
Yeah.
Yeah, so after I did that, which is the highest point in New Mexico, I started to think, "Well, I wonder what all the highest points in other states are."
Yeah.
So I've been to, the highest point in North Carolina. I was recently at the highest point in North Dakota, which
Okay.
was super cool. It's like
Okay.
3,000 feet, so it's not actually that high.
Uneventful up there,
It was
huh?
uneventful, but beautiful views
Yeah?
because it's in the middle of nowhere.
Okay.
So I've just said, if I can and I'm in a state and I'm close enough to find it, I wanna go to the highest point.
What's the highest point in Florida?
It's up in the Panhandle, I think,
Is
or
it in
close to the
Tallahassee?
Panhandle. It's not in Tallahassee.
Hmm,
I think it's, like, right before maybe you cross into, Alabama,
really?
and I can't remember the name of it, but There is. And so I actually planned out a road trip to go to the highest point in Florida, Georgia. Well, I've already done North Carolina, but North Carolina, South Carolina,
Mhm.
and then come back down,
That is
on
cool.
like a little loop road trip.
This podcast could have been the highest point, 'cause that is cool.
Yeah. I gotta make it happen, but I'll take my work as third flag on every like
There
jaunt
you
up to the
go.
highest point.
Okay.
Yeah.
Alright. Well, because this is now I'm committed to your journey. Like, I feel like I need to follow you and make sure you're getting to these highest points that we all wanna know about.
Yeah. I'm gonna start with the lower one, lower elevation ones
Okay.
first, I
Okay.
think.
Alright. You should sprinkle them out actually, because getting to some of the highest points may involve, like, quite a bit of work.
Right.
You
That's
don't
true. That is true.
spread it out.
Speaking of preparation, yeah.
Yeah.
So what other kinds of goals have you worked toward as you think about your morning training and your routine?
Um, One of the things that I did as I got up to this point was, being able to have on my calendar, because we all live by calendars, right? The unfortunate part of life is like not being able to remember every single thing unless it's on my calendar. And so I started to schedule the time for me, right? What that really ended up looking like was I have a meeting at 1:30, I have a meeting at 2:30, and I have a meeting at 3:30. And so someone is saying, "Hey, do you have time to do this at 2:30?" And I would look at my calendar and I'd be like, "No." Now what they don't know is at 2:30, that is my scheduled time to sit, to be quiet, right? All they know is that there's a meeting on my calendar at 2:30. What that really did for me is it forced me to honor myself, right? Because if no one else knows that my 2:30 is for me and someone asks me to do something at 2:30, I can't say, "Well, Don, you're not respecting my boundaries." I'm not respecting my boundaries. I am dishonoring myself. I am not creating space for myself because I put it on the calendar and I need to treat it just like I treated the 1:30. Like, "Hey, I gotta go. I have this meeting." Well, at 2:30, if we are running over, I gotta go, "Hey, I gotta go. I got a 2:30." And I gotta treat that just as important as that meeting with the CEO, that meeting for whatever else I had going on, the oil change, the picking up the kids, whatever that looks like.
You have permission to take that time and not explain yourself to people.
Absolutely.
I have to get to a call, another call.
Mhm. Which it's all true, right?
Right.
When I'm saying I have another meeting, that is not a lie. So sometimes, again, it is like people feel, "Oh, well, it's just me." Have you met me?
Yeah,
That's important.
that is important.
Right? And so when we can kinda shift into that space of, like, that 2:30 meeting is just important as the 9 a.m. I had.
This is a really great line of conversation here because one of the things I struggled with a couple of years ago was I would constantly give up time that I put on my calendar for myself for
Mhm.
other people, and I always justified it. Well, I really love this person. Oh, I really want to help this person, or I really support this cause, or I feel like I need to take care of this thing. And then I would just constantly find myself never having time for myself.
But you had time for yourself. You actually scheduled the time
I scheduled the time and then gave it
and
away.
gave it away.
Yeah.
Yeah. But, eh, there was something that was necessary in that exercise, though, right? To be able to reflect on, "I'm actually giving my time away."
Right. Right. And it did take me time to think, what is the significance of what's happening right now?
Mhm.
And what is the lesson I can learn?
Yeah.
And for me, it's not just that I don't have time.
Yeah.
It's like I'm taking that time away from myself.
I'm saying, yeah. That's the accountability.
Yeah.
That is the, like, I'm owning that it's not that Bob is calling me and asking me. It's I'm handing it over. I'm couponing myself right now.
Yeah. That's a hard lesson for all of us, I think.
Hard lesson, like, It's me. I'm the problem.
Yeah, I mean, the calendar for me, I talk about it a lot. It's probably come up on almost every episode. It is really trying to find a way to manage your time in a way that feels abundant to you,
Mhm.
but also allows you to honor what it is that you wanna do for others
Mhm.
is a hard thing to balance.
Yeah. I and calendars and time is time we again, going back to the productivity, right? We know that, like, time is important to us in so many areas of our life, right? Like, time with our family, time with our friends, time with our loved ones, time at work, because many of us, like, that time is an hour to be productive to get paid, right? Entrepreneurs, it's like, am I making money with that time, right? I think the powers, the higher powers that have structured society the way they have also know that.
Yes.
They also know how important our time is. I was reading this study and it was saying that for minorities, in comparison to our white counterparts, that we lose more time just waiting for services in the grocery store, at the doctor's office. And when I was reading that, it said that there were no differences, even if you were a higher educated person and minority. And so I
Yeah.
thought to myself, this is important, right? That a variable I can't control. This is how I showed up in the world, right? Is also contributing to loss of time for me, no matter how much education I get. And so when they were giving the examples of at the doctor's office, at the grocery store, and how that also equated to a loss in income for us, I thought to myself, I said, the one thing that I can do for myself while I'm scheduling, because you asked me about like what other things I'm doing, scheduling myself, is that when I schedule my appointments, I expect to be seen at the time that I'm being scheduled. Because when I come in for service, let's say I'm going to a medical appointment and the appointment's at 10, well, when you pull me back at 11, you've taken an hour of my time
Right.
that I'm not getting back. And so I will wait for the first appointment. Like, when you all open? When is the provider there? If the first 8 a.m. appointment isn't until next month, I'll take that because I need to honor my time. And then that point it goes, now if you're late, if you're an hour late, then you're probably not going to retain me as a client, right? Um, but I thought that it was important for me to make sure that not only was I honoring my time, but other people will honor my time, not saying, "Oh, it's okay that, things do happen, but this shouldn't be the norm of my experience because, research shows."
I feel like this is the struggle in US culture in particular
Mhm.
is on the one hand, I do wanna honor my own time, but I
Mhm.
think that puts the burden on us as individuals, whereas the reality is you need to manage your practice better,
Definitely.
right? Like, I don't need to compensate for your
Mhm.
poor time management.
Mhm.
If this is the number of patients that you can see without inconveniencing your patients,
Mhm.
then switch to that number. I mean, I get really frustrated with that because to me, that's a systemic issue. But it's
Mhm.
also, and I have a lot of respect for practitioners of all kinds.
Yeah,
There's also a pressure, I think, on practitioners because they have such low reimbursement rates for some clients that they
absolutely.
have to see a lot of people.
Mhm.
And so they're also trying to balance getting paid and seeing clients. And so sometimes that's why you are waiting.
That is why you're waiting.
Yeah.
When we see that, but to your point, right? We should not have to. I think that if so many of us though start to set that hard, hey, no, this is my expectations. Practices shift, right? Many of us are just compensating for. We're waiting.
Yeah.
We're coming back. In no other like setting would I be able to. If you're interviewing me for a job, you are not hiring me if I show up an hour late. So, we have to consider that sometimes we enable that culture. If it works, they will continue to do it. But if we are driving because they want our money, we are driving the industry, we can go, how do I honor my time? How do I release myself from this idea that I have to always be doing something? Well, I need to create space in my life. I want to manage my time, but I also want to make sure that the people that I entrust my time with are good stewards of my time.
Yeah.
And when they're not, that we're holding them accountable.
Yes. You are the second person in the last month that has said this kind of strategy of taking the first appointment because their provider routinely runs behind an hour or more.
Mhm.
And they said, I don't care when the next morning appointment is, whatever it is, that's the one I will take
That's
the
the
first thing in
one.
the morning.
Mhm.
I actually thought where you were going with this was I will take work with me or I'll take a book or something. I will take something with me
Mhm.
because if I know I'm going to wait, I'm going to read my book or I might catch up on email or I'm going to do something not because I feel like I need to be productive, but because I recognize that sometimes,
Yeah.
I do have to wait and I don't want to feel like that time is lost. And I do want to feel, and honestly, really, almost all the time I'm just reading a book.
Yeah. And it's not a hard like rule. I have grace and patience are my favorite words, right? I do think that we have to give them grace in that space. Again, it cannot be the norm, right? How can I take that first appointment? And that's with a lot of things, like because it frees up more time for me.
So let me ask you this. The things that you've talked about, are these things practices that you've always had, or is this a more recent kind of shift for you?
It has been a shift for me. So I cannot own that the current version of me and how I show up, and I always say this, I show up as human, but the version of me that is here now is only here because I've learned what it's doing to me to not have these practices. I am definitely like, I'm always doing something, I'm always moving, I'm working, I'm doing these things. And sometimes I realize, man, I'm getting home so late that I can't really enjoy these things. And that's not always good, right?
Right.
If you have to do it every now and again, that's one thing. And some of it has been to get to where I am, and that's okay. But then sometimes what we do to get to where we are, we don't shift it once we arrive.
Hmm. Say that again.
So we spend all this time doing survival strategies to get to where we are. I want to get out of this. I want to achieve this. So I have to do all nighters at the library. I have to, work 2 jobs. And then you arrive at the goal and you keep the same strategies and behaviors.
Hmm.
And so we don't shift.
Yeah.
We don't allow ourselves again, where do I rest at?
How do people shift? How do you think people shift? How did you shift?
It's some hard lessons. But I also say that at some point you get into a space of reflection. So we've kind of been talking about that, about how you realize you're the problem or there's something you could be doing. Like, could I put this on all of these other things that are going on in my life? Yes. And I also have to own that because of all of these things, I've developed, I like to refer to it as our personal policies and procedure manual.
Hmm.
Okay, everybody has one policy and procedure manual at work, and you have a running policy and procedure manual in your head.
Yes.
And what
Ooh,
happens
I love the
is
way you said
you are, yeah, yeah.
that.
And the policy says you need to work 1.5 jobs, and then w- you're trying to get here, you're trying to get a house. Great goal. You get the house though, and you're still doing. And now maybe you need it, but then how do we find ways to shift? So it's really about sitting down and going, wait a minute, I did this because of this, but I don't know, I don't have to keep doing it. I see that a lot, not just in myself, but in my peers and in other high achieving women. We tend to do this thing where we adapt these behaviors or coping strategies that are producing for us, but they're not allowing our bodies to rest. And then what happens? We are realizing our health is suffering as a result. We're experiencing chronic stress. Our wear and tear is starting to come up to the surface.
Right. This is such an interesting thing to think about because I think going back to your comment about how we lose so much time, it's
Mhm.
hard to strategize or how to maintain once you get your goal or how to reach the next goal when your time is just not there, where the time is not available to you.
Mhm.
Because if you have the time, then you think about, okay, I'm going to work 1.5 jobs. I'm going to get this house. Here's how I'm going to maintain this house. And then
Mhm.
here's how I might improve upon the house or sell it and buy another house or whatever your strategy is. But a lot of people never get get the time to build that strategy.
Yeah.
They just do, go, go, go.
Do, 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 go. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that's the thing, right? Is that building in that time. Remember that 2:30 meeting? That's me. I could be sitting on the sofa staring at the ceiling. I also could be rewriting my to-do list. That includes things from my personal life, and any small effort helps. So celebrating those, like I'm such a daily to-do list person. I have to write things out. Even if I don't get to them, I feel good about knowing what it is I need to be focused on. And I think it's important for us to get that moment to, even if it is, I'm just going to vacuum the floor because there's nothing too small. We don't want to set ourselves up for this idea that the strategy needs to be grand in order to make a change.
Right.
We start small, and once we're successful with just vacuuming the floor was this one day, putting up the clothes was this one day, we start to feel better. We build our self-esteem around our own goals because the way we show up for these corporate jobs, these nonprofit jobs, I mean, wow. What if we invested in ourselves with the same level of energy? And this is work is third, right?
Yes.
So if that energy shifted to me instead of shifting to the third priority, what could we be doing with ourselves?
This is so funny because when I quit my job in 2023, this is the exact conversation I almost said the exact same thing to myself. What if I valued myself as much as I value this company that I work for?
Yeah. Mhm.
Because I'm giving them 100% of me
Mhm.
and this is my identity. What if I just
Mhm.
gave myself that energy and attention?
Oh, yes, and when we get trapped in that, I've been there, that identity, it's like that's a dangerous space, and when we shift it, it's powerful. It's powerful.
Yeah.
'Cause sometimes I think we're borrowing just to give them, we're giving 100% and then we're borrowing from some other area of our life to give them an extra 10. Now we're at 110.
Yeah. And some part of our life is lacking.
Some part is lacking.
But I think we all know it and rationally, we
Yeah.
know that when we are well rested, when we eat healthy, when we exercise or
Mhm.
have movement, when we spend time with our loved ones, we are better human beings.
Mhm.
But why don't we prioritize that?
And again, it's how we are socialized. It's school preps us for, you're gonna go here and do this for this amount of time. You're gonna get these tasks done. You're gonna get a gold star. We're gonna move you up to the next grade. And next thing you know, here we are in the workforce, just trying to get a gold star.
Yeah. I was the person trying to get a gold star. I
Trying
think
to get a
many of us
gold
are.
star. And
Yeah.
then you realize like a gold star is just a piece of paper. I can create my own gold star.
Yeah. You can create your own gold star. You don't even have to get a gold star.
You don't have to get it. You're
I
still a great
You're
human.
still a great human. You still have value. You're still
Mhm.
worthy.
You yes, there you are.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Uh,
Gold star just for being a human. That's it.
this is really why one of the reasons I started this podcast is
Mhm.
that I really want to have conversations about the way that we are socialized, as you say, and the culture around work
Mhm.
drives us to be this way and to deprioritize ourselves.
Yeah.
We can flip that. We can flip that script.
Mhm. Mhm.
We can put ourselves first
Yeah.
and still do well at our jobs, right? We can still, if that is important to you and you still want to accomplish, you can still do that thing
Mhm.
and take better care of yourself in the process.
Yeah. And we have to, because if we don't, we're not able to show up in those roles that we say are so important to us. We're not able to show up well. We're showing up, but are we emotionally present or are we physically present? Are we skipping our health checkups and so something's going on in our bodies? Many of us in the workspace we're not eating. Like I haven't had lunch today.
Me either.
Why? I had lunch is my favorite meal of the day.
Ooh, is it?
It is, I love lunch. The other meals, but lunch is great.
And yeah, you haven't. So my plan was to have lunch after we were done today because I had such a busy morning,
Mhm.
which is a terrible excuse not to eat. But I was like, you know what? When I'm done, I will have a break and I'll go get some food.
Yeah.
But I should prioritize eating.
Bringing something light for yourself because, again, your body needs it.
Your body needs
It's
it.
your fuel.
It is your fuel.
Mhm.
Food and rest are your fuel.
Well, I would have brought
And
you tacos had I known.
oh,
I had tacos for lunch.
from where?
This new place in downtown Tampa, and they had a grilled cheese fish taco, and it was amazing.
Oh, well, okay, that just means we'll have to get together again and do tacos or
Yeah,
do lunch. Just do a big lunch.
just do a lunch.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we've had a really wonderful conversation so far. In fact, I would say this is the thing that's made me happy today.
That makes me happy.
Yeah. So before we end our conversation, I'm curious if there's anything that we didn't talk about that you wanted to share.
Well, I had prepared because I'm like an over preparer in my thoughts, and this was beautiful. So, no, everything that needed to be shared was shared.
The other thing I was thinking, so as you go about the rest of your week, what kind of words of wisdom would you share for people? Maybe it's, find something to be joyful for and like recognize your joy every day. But what would you say to listeners?
Well, what I would say, and I shared this at a women's event at the Woodson a couple weeks ago, but really repeating and affirming to yourself, you have enough, you do enough, and you are enough, and affirming that for yourself each day.
I couldn't think of a better way to end the conversation. So thank you so much for being here and for your time and for your joy. I really appreciate you as a human being and friend and so grateful you were here today.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you so much for listening to my conversation with Dr. Brittany Peters. If this episode resonated with you, please share it with someone who might need a reminder to make time for themselves. And if you haven't already, subscribe to Work is Third wherever you listen to podcasts. You can also sign up for my newsletter, The Joyful Rebellion, and find more resources at workisthird.com. Remember, you have enough, you do enough, you are enough.